Right, it's a delayed start to the last weekday doubleheader for IPL 2023. Rain in Lucknow means we are still to have a toss, but it's happening shortly. So toss and team news from Lucknow Super Giants versus Chennai Super Kings coming soon. But we are set up for such a wondrous Wednesday based on everything that's happened in the last 4 games. You saw Chennai lose to Punjab, Rajasthan lose to Mumbai, Lucknow to Bangalore, and Gujarat to Delhi. All top 4 teams losing to teams from outside the top 4. And that's why this table, which is already so tight, gets tighter still. And means on Visit Saudi presents ESPNcricinfo T20 Timeout. We can hope for quite the Wednesday. Top 6 separated by only 2 points. By the end of this evening, it could be a top 7 separated by 2 points.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was last Sunday, those 2 games. I think Chennai lost and Punjab won. Those 2 games were huge. Even yesterday, that was a huge win as well for DC. Suddenly, I mean, you look at that table, you're like, it's quite packed there. 12, 10. Yesterday, Gujarat had an opportunity to go 14 and clear of the others, but then that didn't happen. So this looks like a really, really interesting last few weeks.
We generally use that term in the last week or 10 days, but given the way the table is, you might as well call it 25 matches worth of a business end this season, Shaun.
Well, it is. That's obviously shows the quality of the competition. I think last week, Ravi Shastri mentioned it was moving week.
Yeah.
It was a bit of sort of that dull period, if I can say, dull period of when it's like, okay, what's happening here? It's shifting around. But I think that's moved into this week as well. Not dull. It's been everything but dull, but it's been a moving week again. At the same time, there is a traffic jam there. So, but that's just the quality of the competition, I think. And as pitches sort themselves out now and they change a little bit, team makeups might change a little bit as well. So it's just become really interesting.
It's also become interesting to figure what's the way to go. You look at these last 4 or 5 matches, you're either scoring 130 and winning, or scoring 200 and losing.
Yeah, true. True. I mean, that's been quite weird way in terms of number of 200s being scored. I think it's already about 25 times so far. 200s been scored, out of which 13, 14 times would be batting first, and the number of teams winning games by batting first. So there are a lot of uniqueness in this year's IPL, and that's quite interesting actually, because there are new things coming up every now and then.
Yeah. And that uniqueness is just what our analyst, our man around Matt Roller, is focusing on. We'll get you the toss. We do know Krunal Pandya is leading Lucknow Super Giants, but all that just in a bit. First, let's find out some of these trends that Matt Roller is mapping for us.
2023 was meant to be the season that home advantage returned to the IPL. After 3 years of neutral venues, both in India and the UAE, we're back for a full home and away season. And the thinking was that teams playing in front of their own fans and on pitches that they could familiarise themselves with would be able to turn that into an advantage and dominate home games. But the theory and what's happened in practice have been 2 very different things this year. As you can see, we've already had a huge number of away wins this season, more than we had in 2017, 18 and 19, which were the most recent full home and away seasons in India. And we're only around 3/5 of the way through the league stage this year. As you can see, this has extended across pretty much every team in the league, because every team, each of the 10, has lost at least 2 of their home games so far. This suggests that not only is this something that's affected a few teams, in fact, it's been something that's damaged every team's hopes of qualifying for the playoffs. One of the reasons for this might be the fact that teams have been showing more intent while batting first throughout this season, which is reflected in a high number of defending wins compared to chasing wins. Captains are still often choosing to chase at the toss due to the perceived advantage of batting with dew coming into effect in the run chase. But what's actually happened is scoreball pressure has come into play. We've seen more defending wins than chasing wins, and we've also seen more games won by teams who have lost the toss than by teams who have won the toss. So, how much does this play into the reasons for the lack of home advantage this year? And is this a freak trend that will even itself out as the season wears on? Or is there something deeper going on that our guys in the studio can tell us about?
Right, let's throw it to our guys in the studio. Is there something deeper to it, Deep?
Yeah, obviously after what, you're playing at home after a while. And even if you look at that list of number of home games won would be the older franchises who already have a very good home record. Look at Bangalore, especially Chennai and Mumbai. Chennai would be right there at the top in terms of home record. Mumbai would be second to them, I believe, traditionally. So you have predominantly the older, more settled franchises doing better than the others. And you can expect some of the other, newer franchises not being used to the venues. Ahmedabad and obviously Lucknow, they are newer venues as well. So yeah, you can understand that part, and also the toss part. We mentioned about the impact player, and also I believe the due factor hasn't been that big an issue this season, isn't it, Shaun? I mean, I don't remember one game which has been really affected by due so far.
No, there hasn't. I think it's been quite enjoyable. There has been a change in that, because when the batting first comes into play, there was a time with T20 cricket played it in the evenings, especially in this part of the world, where it was like
win the toss.
Yeah, that's it. It's like it was swayed one way heavily. And I think you're right, Deep. I think there's been the last few seasons as well. You probably haven't been picking players for franchises to play at your home ground. There was a time when KKR was certainly picking a squad based around their home ground. Chennai, we know,
Chennai,
and these teams that you mentioned, Mumbai. So there's been a few seasons now when maybe franchises haven't been selecting teams because of their home ground advantage. And I think with the batting, I think in general the landscape of cricket around the world now, players and coaches, I think they're taking the game on a bit more as well.
Yeah,
it's a simple way of putting it. Looking at it's not very analytical, but I think in general attitudes towards batting now. There's less fear, and teams want to get after it, especially when they bat first.
And the one team that has borne the brunt of that home-away shift, especially off late, we thought Lucknow started this campaign building something of a fortress at Ekana with 2 contrasting wins. But the last 3 times they've played on a pitch that has come up to a lot of debate, they have had to bat first. They have not managed to win. Scrapper is what you and Tom Moody coined it the last time they were playing. What does rain do to the scrapper?
I think one thing, I hope it gets better as compared to what we saw last couple of games. Very low scoring. 126 was defended, if I'm not wrong, last time around.
And defended quite comfortably.
Yeah, by 7 or 8 runs. So yeah, I mean, I hope that changes. I hope we get a better pitch than that. It seems like it's a better pitch than that. Maybe not 180, but definitely looks like a 150, 160 pitch. And that's what it is. And again, I think it was Kale who initially did mention this, that nobody has an idea of playing at Lucknow. So for example, even traditional venues, you have some idea, even if you're traveling, let's say Mohali, you've played enough games as a away team as well to know what you're going to get there, conditions. But Lucknow is like an unknown commodity, whether you're a home team or away team, and it's been that way. And the move, I mean, we saw that. They were like red soil, 170, black soil, 120. You really don't know what you're going to get.
It might change, or we'll hope it's a bit quicker with the rain around. But if it were to be a similarly challenging surface, Shaun, I think we got a good template. Lucknow themselves, and I'll correct myself, I said they batted first and lost the 3. They chased and lost their last 3 games at home. When RCB batted, there was a bit of a template for teams to follow batting first. We'll throw up the numbers in just a bit, and you look at the contrast in the 2 teams and the way they scored in the last game. RCB minimized their dot balls, and there was a lot of running involved. 61 singles, 12 doubles, a triple. And you compare that to Lucknow, who actually end this game, such a low-scoring game, with 20 more boundary runs. And yet, you see that gulf, you see that difference.
You could see, I mean, watching the other night, this game, I mean, you could see that Lucknow were trying to win it with more boundaries. The problem is if you start losing wickets, that becomes an issue. And on a track like that, a slow track, it's difficult. So I think Bangalore actually played it quite smart.
Yes.
They did play it quite smart. They also have the experience and the players to work the ball around, manipulate the field, all those sorts of traditional cricket things, I suppose.
So let's decipher those numbers again. So predominantly, if you think of Bangalore, I think it was 30 for Virat and 31 for Virat and 44 for Faf. So out of those 126, 70 plus 80 runs were scored by them.
Yeah.
What Shaun mentioned, they have that kind of skill set as well to play on pitches like that, scrappers, to get those singles and doubles as compared to, let's say, Lucknow. The only guy who has a game, who depends on a game like that, is KL Rahul, who did not bat, or rather batted number 11 or something. So predominantly, if you look at the composition of that Lucknow side, I don't think these pitches actually suit their batting.
You know who else has a team to manipulate? And
Chennai.
they're probably the best at it.
Exactly so.
Be interesting to see what wicket this is. Yeah.
Now, Lucknow, when they do get to bat first this time, not knowing what this surface might present, the one big challenge throughout the season, regardless of surfaces, has been that you remove Kyle Mayers, Marcus Stoinis and Nicholas Pooran, and there's really not any runs there, KL Rahul included. He's missing today, but KL Rahul, Deepak Hooda, Ayush Badoni, the rest of the batting lineup just hasn't showed up. How much more important does it become in the absence of KL Rahul now?
Most on pitches like these, you mentioned Stoinis, who's a power hitter, Pooran is a power hitter, Mayers is a power hitter, at least he opens so he gets to play the new ball, which is still all right. So if it again is a 140, 150 kind of a pitch, then you need the Indian domestic players to fire.
Absolutely.
Ayush Badoni and Deepak Hooda. I mean, Deepak Hooda, I was just reading somewhere, in last 16 innings, he's got 1 innings of 20 plus score. And he's much, much better than that. So they've definitely got to come to the party. They've got to contribute more.
I think Krunal, to be honest, Krunal's the guy in my head. I'm waiting, because I think he's got that game.
Yeah, true.
It's just his decision making. I think last game he went to go over the top when I don't know, he probably shouldn't have.
And there was a partnership building as well.
Yeah,
at
he
that
was.
point.
I think he's. I mean, I'm not going to put everything on him.
Yeah.
Because you said, Hooda's got to step up, and Badoni had a good innings a couple of games back. But I just think Krunal now take his game up a step with the bat is maybe the answer to this issue. Yeah.
Could there have been a temptation? I know it's a tricky one, but when you're missing that experience of KL Rahul at the top, would there have been a temptation to consider Quinton de Kock?
But in place of whom? I mean, you still got 4 slots, right? And those 4 slots, it's very difficult to drop either Mayers. He still is the highest run getter. He's batting well. Stoinis, Pooran, or Naveen ul Haq. So it's very difficult to, I mean, as much as you would want Quinton de Kock to play, but unfortunately can't fit him in at this point in time.
And I can confirm, Deep, that that's exactly what's happened. Still no room for Quinton de Kock, but there are a couple of changes that Lucknow had to make. You see one right at the top. Manan Vora had been on the bench, featured once or twice for Lucknow last season. He is the obvious replacement for KL Rahul at the top of the order. You also see Karan Sharma, who's an all-rounder, bowls some off-break, who'll slot in somewhere in the middle order. And also at the end, someone who caught so much of our attention in 2022, Mohsin Khan returns, and automatically I see smiles on both my panelists' faces. Let's go with you, Shaun, since Mohsin Khan is a pacer.
Yeah, I think I like that actually. I quite like those changes in general, and good to see him back as well because he had a great season. So, to be honest, I think okay, you lose KL, but looking at the way they've shifted things around, that looks quite healthy, Deep.
Yeah,
I think,
Yeah, I mean, obviously Deepak Hooda, we were talking about him. Karan Sharma comes in his place. Manan Vora, which was on expected lines to open. And it's quite interesting to see Marcus Stoinis at number 3 right now. I hope they go with that batting order. Again, they're batting first, so obviously, again, one of those pitches maybe where Marcus Stoinis would be better off batting in the top order rather than in the middle or lower down. And Mohsin Khan, it's so good to see him back. Last game, saw him warming up and all. He was getting ready for it. But he was so good last season. It'll be quite interesting to see how he goes about now.
Before I ask you my other questions about this lineup, there's going to be happier news on the fast bowling front because you'll see a returning name in the Chennai Super Kings camp as well. Deepak Chahar is back. He had been away after the start of the season. We were wondering whether we'd see him again. Here you go, Deepak Chahar in for Akash Singh. This is Chennai bowling first, of course, in Lucknow. So that is the full bowling complement they expect to have on the field. How good is that to see, Shaun?
Yeah, it's good. Just swinging that new ball. Hopefully, he gets back to that that form he had before he was out. So, and we'd sort of not forgotten about him, but we obviously hadn't spoken about him a lot. And he's one of those guys we talk about Dhoni backing in so well. And maybe that was a case of we're still backing you in, and as soon as you're ready to go, we're going to get you in there. So, yeah, I think it's a good bowling lineup.
Yeah, and that was much required. If you think about it, CSK, their batting's been all right, but their bowling has let them down a few times. I mean, lack of experience with Akash and Tushar Deshpande. I think that's where Deepak. That's a huge positive for Chennai, getting him back now.
And they got something out of Akash Singh, made the most as they do.
He was pretty good, wasn't he? He wasn't bad, yeah.
But given how now you look at that bowling lineup, Matisha Patirana slotted in very well at the death. Tushar Deshpande gives you overs, might give runs, but is among the top wicket takers of the season. This somewhere allows Deepak Chahar to play his old traditional CSK role and go top heavy.
Absolutely. Swing the ball up front, maybe bowl at least 2, if possible 3, and then maybe 1 over. So now he's got a little more elbow room. He's got a little more experience more than anything else. You know, for all you know, Tushar, who was kind of forced to a certain extent to bowl in the later half of the innings, you might have now Deepak Chahar at least an over of his in that stage, and you can finish Tushar a little earlier. So I think got a little more experience in that bowling attack now, and which was much required for CSK.
So a pacer of note coming back into both lineups with varying gaps. Deepak Chahar, of course, missed a few weeks right now. Mohsin Khan, we haven't seen much of since that last IPL.
Yep.
How do you set yourself up as a fast bowler when you're returning from a layoff and you know that the tournament's also in a crunch position?
It's not easy. It's not easy being on the sideline and coming straight back in. But that's just what it is. That's what the IPL is. You got fairly large squads. You got options, and things change a lot throughout the course of a season. Especially with the bowlers, there's always injuries or change of conditions, especially this part of the tournament, when conditions will change a little bit. And you just got to present yourself as an option. I know myself playing in the IPL many moons ago, it was a tough thing to come in after missing, say, the first half of the tournament and playing a role. But at the end of the day, that's what you ask of professional cricketers. That's what it is. So Deep saying that, Deepak has that experience, so you'd expect someone like him water off a duck's back and straight back into it.
Right. So I now ask the tough question of you professionals. On this scrapper, whether it's a scrapper, not a scrapper, what is the score you're going for, Deep Dasgupta?
Which soil is it? Which one is it, the red or black soil?
It's the black soil. It's still the black soil. And yeah, it's a tough one. Again, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'll go with 155.
I've always leaned higher, but I'll go less. I'll go 140.
Feeling the pinch
because
from that Delhi prediction.
I keep going with ridiculously high numbers and it's going the other way.
But you know what? LSG's got a good record batting first, actually.
Yeah.
They're a good batting first team.
Love to see a higher score, though.
Yeah.
Love to see it. Yeah.
And they haven't got to do it in a while. Like we said, lost 3 in a row at home, having had to chase. Can Lucknow turn it around? It's all so tight in the points table. There's Punjab, Mumbai later in the evening, and the table could just within 2 games turn for the worse if you are at the wrong end of those results. So be sure to follow all the action. It's a packed day. It's a packed weekday doubleheader. ESPNcricinfo mobile app should have you covered all through the action. You can download it off the Play Store and the App Store. And we'll be back at halftime. See how those predictions fared. See how Lucknow fared in the absence of KL Rahul. A pretty changed look that they have. So be sure to join us at halftime on Visit Saudi presents ESPNcricinfo T20 Timeout.